Hello, everybody, and welcome to our afternoon show where we're going to have I think, a pretty deep and meaningful chat this afternoon. I'm joined today by Laura Furiosi. She's going to change her last name, but I won't say it because it's so not true. She's the mum of 3 daughters. She runs 3 businesses like, oh my God, Rashoodz Swimwear, Bossy Mummy, and Divorce Course, and a podcast. But today we're going to talk about something a little bit more personal. And I would like to thank you, Laura, for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I always love chatting with you, Annette.
Oh, thank you. It's like just randomly out of the blue. Laura, do you want to talk to me on my show? And you said yes, and I was really grateful. There's like, as I went through your bio, you're so accomplished and clever. I love looking at your Instagram feed. It's inspirational and you love helping people. But that beautiful smile hides a little bit of pain, doesn't it? Like, you've been living with a chronic illness called endometriosis for a long time.
Yes, I guess, yes. Endo and fibromyalgia. And I got diagnosed with a new one recently. I've got a few little things in my backpack. I call it my chronic illness backpack that I carry around that is invisible, that no one can see.
And aren't those diseases and illnesses just the greatest, the ones that you can't see? Because you go through life and we've got to juggle all of these things, yet unless we're in a wheelchair or it's something obvious, people kind of expect you to just pick up pull your big girl pants on and just get on with it, don't they?
They do. Yes. Yeah, it's tough. I think even mental illness is like also, like chronic illness, it's invisible. So there's a lot of people out there that are walking around that look normal and look fine and look like they can be capable of doing anything. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that are hiding a lot of things that maybe they don't share with others because they're not comfortable or whatever. But it's always good to remember that when you're working with people, that they might have something, and give them the benefit of the doubt sometimes.
We can be very judgmental, can't we? Because I like you have got a chronic illness backpack, and I pack all my little problems in there, and we're a little bit late because I was at the doctor's this morning, and you put this big smile on your face and people don't realise it, and sometimes when you have to cancel or you're just not feeling well, people are like, that's not very professional.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that has been a challenge throughout my career, and in motherhood as well, to kind of having to explain to people, look, I can't because I'm unwell, and having to kind of sometimes prove it to people, which is even worse, I think. And so I guess in a way, I've kind of worked in a way where I don't put myself in those situations. I've always kind of got a way of doing my work where I can pull out if I need to and it's not so obvious. But yeah, that's one of my little tricks that I do.
So when were you diagnosed with endometriosis? And for those who don't know what it is, can you explain a little bit about what it is and how it impacts? And it's mainly, it is a female condition.
Yes. Endometriosis Australia has great information. If you ever want to go onto their website, endoaustralia.org, and they explain it in much better explanations than I can. But basically, endo is where things are going a bit crazy down with your uterus lining, and it wreaks havoc and basically causes a lot of pain, not just during periods, but before, after, or just all the time. You can get the cysts and little bits of things grow all over the place. So I had some on my diaphragm and liver, my bowel, my pouch of Douglas. I didn't even know what that was. So it literally just goes everywhere and causes a lot of pain. That's my summary of it anyway.
No, that sounds pretty spot on. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was at uni, so I was still a teenager at the time, and they thought it was appendicitis. And I'm actually really lucky because most people don't get diagnosed for 10 years or more. Like it's because it's such a hidden disease. A lot of them say to teenagers, that's just period pain, that's just that. So a lot of people live with it for a long time before they get a diagnosis. I was very lucky to be diagnosed at such a young age. Obviously, it wasn't appendicitis and they found it. And then I've just had an ongoing battle since that time up until now. I've had more than 15 surgeries and a lot of pain. Yeah.
That is a lot of pain. So yeah. I know, like I was similar to you. I think I was 16 when I was diagnosed, and I remember the doctor saying it's just period pain, and I'm like going, oh no, I don't think so. Yeah. Do you think sometimes it's easy, particularly with women's health issues, to just put things down to, oh, you're just a woman and that's just how you're meant to feel?
Well, I always think of it this way, and I respect the medical profession, but if men were walking around with that kind of pain in their testicles, I'm pretty sure no one would be saying, oh, it's just that men time. Like they would have sorted endo by now if it was a men. And I know that sounds like a crazy feminist thing, but I honestly think it's just, we're just told to, like even with pregnancies, suck it up. Like I had something with my pregnancy, I had preeclampsia, and they didn't know much about it. And I said, women have been pregnant for centuries. Like, how do we not know what this is? Like, why do you not know? So I think a lot more research is finally being done into endo. And I think over time we will understand it a bit more. But, yeah, I think a lot of women have just been told to suck it up and it's women's business, move on. Just been sad. Or misinformation, get pregnant, it'll go away. Or, all those kinds of things have been a real disappointment, I think, in everyone's journey with endo.
Now, you said you've also got fibromyalgia, and I said to you before we talked, I think we both stood in the same line and went, go on, give us some life challenges. How do you manage those two things and do so much? I mean, like I just gave people a bit of an overview of your bio. And you've achieved a lot for someone who's had to deal with like not just one but two chronic illnesses.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm a very determined woman. And I think one thing with fibro and endo is I feel like it goes up and down a little bit. So it can be really bad one day and not so bad the other day. So I was a primary school teacher to start with, and it wasn't feasible for me to be a teacher because I couldn't be there for my students the whole year, because at some points I would be on the floor in agony and other times I would be fine. So I think what I had to do was find something that would work for me. So I did a lot of Rashoodz at home. I did a lot of Rashoodz in bed, a lot in bed, from a laptop, mobile, hospital bed. And with fibro, same thing, because, when your legs go, man, I'm going to work today, or you're going to be, like, it's all got to be done in bed. And so that's what I've done. And now with the podcasts and the divorce course I'm working with my mother, I can do that from bed as well. So I've just managed to create something that I can do with not having to be 24 hours or 24/7 standing on my feet, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's the real secret, isn't it? Is that with increasing numbers of women and men starting their own businesses, it's to find something that works for you. Would you say that's a real key to business success?
100%. 100%. There's no point if you're a square peg and you're trying to get into a round hole. Doesn't matter how much jamming you're going to do, it's never going to work. So if you've got chronic illness and you're trying to get yourself into some sort of business or normal job, and you know it's not going to work. So you've got to work on that. Thanks, Rosa. You've just got to go, okay, how can I adjust my life, and how can I work? Like, so I always say to people that I help, look at your limitations and make sure that the job you're going for fits within your limitations, so be honest with yourself. Don't push yourself to the point where you're exhausted and you have a massive flare-up. Yeah.
Rose has just said you're the queen of the Osmompreneur Awards. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, so how was that feeling of putting yourself up for an award? Because I know when you've got chronic illnesses, sometimes you get a little bit down on yourself and you're like, oh, you know, why me? And this is all too hard. What was that process of going, you know what, I'm going to put myself up for an award?
Well, it's funny with Osmum, and I realised, you know, working with kids at home, I'm not calling children chronic illnesses, but it's a similar way. You know? I love my children, but they hold you back from doing what you would do if you didn't have children. Like that's the honest truth. So my chronic illnesses and working from home worked the way that mums doing businesses with children at home worked. So when I actually signed up, I hadn't even really gotten into the full business, but it was in the design part. I entered in 2012 for the product design innovation. Didn't win, but had a lovely time meeting all these people. And I watched all these ladies on the stage and their amazing achievements. And I was just like, I want to be like them. I want to achieve. And then, so it was funnily, it was because of that was in 2012. I don't think I entered or won until much later, years later. But I used that as my motivation. I went, if those ladies can do it with children at home, I can do it with children at home in a chronic illness. So I use that as my motivation. And look, it is hard to put yourself out there and you know, nominate and try and go for an award. And I never thought I would win it. But I just enjoyed the company of everybody. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, I've just lost you. Hang on. But I just enjoyed the company of everybody that was there. So, yeah. And I think just that community group, I loved it. So that's why I did it. I did it to prove to myself that I could do it, really, which is weird.
You did it. And you did it. Yeah, congratulations. I think it's awesome. I know when I was Googling you just before I first met you in real life, like I'd followed you for a long time, it was like, wow, like there's so much inspirational about someone who picks themselves up by the bootstraps and just gets on and does it anyway. I think it's really cool. I'm a bit of a fangirl.
I think if you meet anyone who has had trauma, who has had a horrible childhood, who has had a chronic illness, life changing thing, that you learn from a young age, okay, in order for me to do what everybody else is doing, I've got to have more positivity, I've got to be more. So that's just it's something that is now ingrained in me, and I don't give up. Yeah. And I think a lot of chronic illnesses are like that, I hope.
Was there ever a time where you just went, this is just too hard? Because I know you said you don't give up, but have you ever like reached the brick wall where you've gone, I don't know if I can pull myself over it?
There's been a couple of times. When doctors don't believe you, that's really hard. And a couple of times, you know, because endo is usually down low. When the endo started being around higher up, doctors were like, well, that's not a thing. That's not real. That's not real pain. And that was really hard for me. People questioning my realness is offensive and hard for me. And I struggled. I leaned on my sister, my mum, and they all encouraged me. Only just a couple of weeks ago, I got another really bad news as well from the hospital, and I decided I was going to take 2 months off, and I wasn't going to do anything, and I was just going to focus on getting myself back to and focusing on my health. And the funniest thing was, I realized what pulls me out of those bad times is me working on my business. So it's like it is my fuel. It's what keeps me going. I think if I stopped and went to bed, like a lot of people do it with what I've got, and just stayed there, I'd be like Willy Wonka's granddad that just did not, Charlie's granddad that just stayed there forever. That would be me. I know if I stopped, that'd be the end. So I'm never going to stop. I'm always going to work. I'm always going to try. And that's what keeps me going. But yeah, there have been times. Everyone has those times. Yeah.
They sure do. Tell me a little bit about the divorce course. It's very interesting. You're working with your mum. So you said your mum's a lawyer. What is divorce course?
So I've obviously been going through a divorce in the last couple of years, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. I had a lawyer, had a barrister, even got a QC, and I realised all this stuff was happening, and I had no idea what. I had to keep ringing mum, going, "Can you explain this? Can you explain this?" Even though I had a lawyer, and she was lovely, but I was out of the loop. I had no idea, and so I realised when I was ringing mum realised, she's like, "Oh, didn't your lawyer explain that?" And mum said, "I guess we never do." And I was like, "No." So we thought, okay, how can we help women in these situations that I've been in who can't get access to my mum and who don't have a lawyer? How can they get the information? How can we help? So we started with the podcast, and that's been super successful. It's been charting since we started, and we're super excited that lots and lots of women have been able to listen, and men, to, you know, what to do before you leave, what you're entitled to, and all this stuff. There was a lady that messaged me the other day. She's been living in her shed. Her husband told her, because she didn't pay any money for the house, she had to live in her shed. But she'd been living with this man for 20 years, raised his children. She didn't know what she was entitled to. She listened to our Divorce Course podcast and went, wait, I don't have to live in the shed. So there's a lot of people out there that are falling through the cracks, and Mums and my aim is to help those women with domestic violence and with property and children's rights. So that's where that's happening. And what we're doing is creating an online course to give to women, especially in domestic violence, to do for free, that will talk them through how to fill out the forms, how to go to court, how to represent yourself, and how it works. And Mum does the legal talk, and I get her to transform it into normal people talk. So yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Because lawyer talk is another language from another planet.
It is. I know. It doesn't make any sense to me ever. So, yeah, I'm just sharing my mum's knowledge, basically. So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Your mum's cool.
She is cool.
So, in terms of, you've got the podcast, so it's just called Divorce Course Podcast?
The Divorce Course Podcast, yeah. Yeah,
okay,
and it's on Apple, Spotify, you know, all the places you go to get podcasts.
I'll put it up in the links on the comments so people can go and check that out, because I guess divorce is pretty common, isn't it? It's like 40 to 50%.
I think it's 52%. And I think it's more now. After COVID, I think there's been a massive influx. So it's been, it's not been good for people.
Isn't it funny how you can, I was thinking about it as I was driving to, you know, talk to you, that you can fall in love with someone, just be totally into them, and then within a few years you look at them and you go, oh, I don't even like you anymore. Or, you know, you can go from, you know, one pole to the other so quickly.
Yeah, it's a weird world. Yeah.
It is a weird world. And what are you up to with Bossy Mummy? That's like, who are you bossing around?
So I help women. I see the thread here is women. So when I was running Rashoodz, I had a warehouse called Squad Logistics, and I was distributing for other people's products. And a lot of startups would come to me and put their stuff in my warehouse. And then I would give them advice on how to get distributed overseas, or how to get out in, you know, into wholesaling, or how to boost their sales, and basically how to run their business. And I was doing that for free. And then over time, people who I've never met before were asking for help, and went, oh, maybe I should charge. And so Bossy Mum has really evolved from something I was doing all the time anyway, into a more formal, it's not formal with my clients, but yeah, I talk to women and I coach them with their businesses, basically. Yeah. And I just give little pepping inspiration to people on Instagram and Facebook. And it's just my way of giving back, really, to the world, because what else are we here for?
Absolutely. Laura, you are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, that's really personal information that you've shared with me today, and I really appreciate it. And even though you are the bossy mummy, I think you're a beautiful mummy, because you obviously care about people so much. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see all your other videos. I've already started watching the one with Rochelle. That's exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be awesome. We've got some beauties.
Yeah, you've done well. Thank you so much, Jeanette.
Mwah.
Bye.